Good morning, everyone. Welcome once again to another episode of our program. Today, we'll be talking about a very controversial issue, and it has to do with tithes. It's controversial in the sense that whenever we get to talk about tithes, it always comes up with different forms of reasoning and understanding, and everyone with his own idea or concept of what tithe should be and what it represents. We all have come to understand tithe, or we have come to know tithe to be money, and it causes a lot of controversy because it now seems to be the only reason or the driving force of any sort of ministry, especially in our part of the world where we are reaching out to you from. So that is the issue we'll be addressing today. But following the trend of our previous video, we'll be making this analysis based on certain videos we have scouted the internet for, and one of them is quite popular in the sense that most of you might have seen it. So we'll be looking at those videos and talking about tithe from our own perspective, a perspective we have described as new. So we are bringing that perspective to those of you, our viewers, to look at it or listen to it and evaluate. Make your judgment based on what you're listening to, and let's say you derive a better understanding of what a tithe is and what its purpose was meant to serve in the life of man. So on this forum with me today, I have Brother Camillus, Sister Adugo. I myself am Brother David. I have Sister Yuti and Brother Kufwe. We'll be analyzing these videos ourselves, and if you have any questions or inquiries you need to make based on our previous videos, or at the end of this video, you can send us an email via the addresses that will pop up on your screen, and be rest assured we'll get back to you. And for those of you who wish to join us live in our sessions to have your questions addressed directly via a video feed, you can indicate that on your mail, and we'll establish a video link to have you join us via Zoom, Skype, or Google Meet. And be rest assured this procedure doesn't require any monetary charge. All is required is your access to the internet, and you can get to be with us in our sessions. So let's get into what we have for you today. We'll be playing the videos now. So yeah, let's go on.
I am going to give every one of you, pastors, an opportunity to repent tonight. And then to go back immediately after this convention and restitute your ways with your congregation. Make it clear to them. Anyone who is not paying his tithe is not going to heaven. Full stop. Each time you fail to pay your tithe, you are telling God, that which belongs to you, I eat it with mine. And you bring a heavy curse on yourself. That's what Adam and Eve did, and God chased them out of the garden. That is when Emmanuel, God for us, became God against us. You fail to pay your tithe, you are calling on God to come and fight. You are telling the Almighty God, I'm going to eat that which belongs to you. Let me see what you can do. Whereas he said, bring my own to me, and see what I can do. Malachi chapter 3, verse 10. Tell your neighbor once again, don't get the rest of us into trouble. Pay your tithes.
Are we learning? Yes, sir. So let me encourage you, based on the truth of scripture I have learned, based on the experience of veterans who have truly prospered by God, I can tell you, do not stop tithing. If you don't have the revelation, settle down and get the revelation. Don't do it religiously. But as far as this house is concerned, as a ministry, we're a tithing ministry. As an individual, I'm a tithing person. And I can tell you, tithe is not about money. It is called the law of open heavens. According to Malachi chapter 3, when you begin to read from verse 8, it says, will a man rob God? It says, but ye say, wherein have we robbed you? In tithes and offerings. So the Bible is talking about robbery here. It says, ye are cursed with a curse. This is not the curse of the law. No. For ye have robbed me, even this whole nation. Verse 10, it says, bring ye how many? All the tithes into my storehouse. In another series, we'll have the time to discuss what storehouse is, because there are 3 platforms that qualify to be called a storehouse. In fact, I think I should just say it in 1 minute. Number 1, a storehouse means your place of primary spiritual nourishment. It qualifies. It is the first biblical platform that is called a storehouse. Your place of primary spiritual nourishment. Number 2, a storehouse also refers to any ministry that is committed to the salvation of souls and the transformation of lives. These 2 things must be there. If it is not actively committed to the salvation of souls and the equipping of the saints, it does not qualify to be called a storehouse. It's an uncomfortable truth, but this is the truth. And then number 3, the storehouse can also by extension refer to an individual, a minister who is committed to the salvation of souls and the equipping of the saints. There are conditions where an individual can be regarded as a storehouse. These are the 3. Just take it like this for now. In another series, as God grants us grace, we'll open deeper into this. I just didn't want to leave that gray area. But it says, bring ye all the tithes into my storehouse.
You know, we have just watched 2 videos. And you know, the emphasis is on tithe.
Yes.
You know, but we can't get into what the tithe is without first of all understanding where you have to take the tithe to, which is the storehouse. You know, because this conversation, you just can't get into, yeah, bring your tithe. You know, tithe is this, tithe is not that. No, I think first and foremost, we need to understand what the storehouse is, what it represents. You know, then we now get to know what the tithe is, to see if we actually have the tithe. You know, so when we can now identify if we have the tithe or not, we now know where to take the tithe. You know, because based on what we have come to know the tithe to be, we now know that each and every individual on the face of the earth actually has a tithe. It has a tithe. But where are we supposed to take that tithe to?
That's very important.
Even as we have said now that everyone has the tithe, you know, does everyone know that what has been described as a tithe is something he or she has? You know, that's another issue. You know, because you can say everybody has the tithe, but somebody is wondering, I don't have the tithe. And so we are going to, you know, try and, I don't want to say educate, but we are going to try and inform, you know, our viewers, or those, you know, those of us or those of them who don't seem to know what the tithe is, what the tithe represents, you know, and where that tithe should be taken to, because that's what was written there. Bring. It didn't say pay. It said bring the tithe into the storehouse. As I will bring the tithes into the storehouse. That's how it was put.
Yes.
Right?
Bring it
Yeah,
the tithes
into the storehouse.
And if you watch the first video said pay. The first person that spoke on the first video said pay your tithe.
That's why we say that, on the course of the video would definitely now, get to inform and educate the viewers on what the tithe is. But first and foremostly, we have to talk about the storehouse. So the question now is,
what is the storehouse?
The question now is, what is the storehouse? That's what the big question is. What is the storehouse? From the second video that was played, the preacher tried to,
define
what the storehouse is, based on what he knows. And before getting to, let the people know what the storehouse is from our own perspective, that you could see that from the three things he mentioned, they are not different. So I don't know why it ended up being three. Because when you listen to the things he mentioned, or the things he described as the storehouse, you can put them all together as one. I don't know if you get me. You can put them all together as one. He said firstly that the storehouse is, your place of primary spiritual nourishment. Your place of primary spiritual nourishment. Then the second one, he talked about a ministry that is, actively committed to the salvation and equipping of souls. Can't you still tie that to your place of spiritual nourishment? Then the third one, he described an individual also who is committed to the salvation and equipping of souls. Don't forget.
That is see your place, because everybody has his own.
Yeah, that's why I said don't forget, because before you talk of a place of primary spiritual nourishment and a place that is committed to the salvation and equipping of souls, you are talking about a person who is functioning in that place, because it's the person functioning in that place that makes that place your place of primary and spiritual nourishment.
Like I said earlier, why we are having this misconception about this type of a thing. If you read Malachi said that we should bring. But why this confusion is coming on now is that the so-called men of God have removed that word bring and replaced it with pay.
Yeah.
Which is why the confusion is. And that's why they tie it money and material things. And that now remove that storehouse, that the personality of that storehouse. It's now remove it from the picture. Total that they don't let the people know what the storehouse is. Because
they let the people know. They don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because they brought in the paying instead of bringing. By bringing, people will understand that, okay, tithe is not money. So it's something that you should bring. You understand? It's not something you need to pay. So that means if you are bringing something, that means it has to be to an individual. You see? But when you are paying that, you are paying to a so-called church or building.
Because if you listen, he was trying to describe the storehouse. You understand? He was trying to describe the storehouse. And just as I was saying, that the three things he mentioned, you can merge them together, which was what we are talking about. And that is the person that makes wherever you go as your place of spiritual nourishment. Is the person that runs the place, that makes that place a place you can get that spiritual nourishment from. So, in essence, what he's saying is that the storehouse is a person. Because you can't just get to a place where there is nobody and you get spiritual nourishment.
that is what he's saying that he didn't say out. Because if you watch his first definition, he said a ministry.
No, a place. So the second one, he said a ministry that
So
is
the second one, he said
committed.
a ministry. You see, that ministry, if when you mention ministry, people feel like it's a church. Like it's a building.
That is what people feel
Yes.
like. But at this moment, it's not what people feel like. We are throwing light
On what it is.
on what it is.
Away
In what
from
even
our
is saying that he doesn't know.
Doesn't know yet.
Because from what Brother Chidwem is saying, the first one, the second one, and the third one, you know, he tried to paint the first one, paint the second one, and the third one, he bring out an individual. And we have said here that first one, you cannot get a place of your primary spiritual nourishment without a person. There is no how you can go to a forest and stay in the forest, and the forest will be talking to you to get into spiritual things. There is no how you get to a building, what we call building as man, a block house or a brick house, and enter into the house, and the house will be talking to you by itself. It is the house that the spirit knows, which is the body of a person, a man standing, that will be talking to you. So, but at this point, you know, our world, like we keep saying here, we are all gone out of the way, all of us. So that is why even the pastor doesn't know. You know, you use the word the preacher. That's the word you use.
Yeah.
The preacher. What? We use the word the preacher because of what they think they represent. But I call them pastors because a preacher cannot do that. That is why in this forum we try to bring to light who a preacher is. And that is the reason why we need to also talk about the storehouse, for our world to know what the storehouse represents. Because the preacher or a preacher is the one that the tithe is supposed to be going to. I want to explain that. You know, you ask, what is the tithe at this moment? I mean, sorry, what is the storehouse at this moment? Because it is the storehouse that the tithe was demanded to go to. Whether your tithe is money, let's say your tithe is money, but what was the instruction? Where is the tithe supposed to be going to? But at this moment, we know that the tithe cannot be money.
Yeah.
So even if tithe were to be money,
It still has
the
to go
place
to
that we
someone.
are supposed to be taking this money to is the place that the spirit appoints. It's not the place that the men appoint.
And it is a single place.
That is why from the statement that he keeps saying, he said, is the place of your
Spirit.
the place of your. So everybody today, if you watch the way the world is functioning, everybody has carved for himself a spiritual father. You know, these are the problem we have.
And if you even look at it, the instruction there was to bring it to the storehouse, not the storehouses.
And if you watch, there's something that said pastor is saying that he's not saying out. If you watch that video critically, for those that can see it, what he's saying that he's not saying that is that if you consider me to be your spiritual leader, bring your tithe to me.
That is the point. That is the point.
You see, it doesn't want it to look as if he is being selfish. You see, he now say it in a very subtle way that people will not feel, this pastor is so humble, he's sincere, he can take your tithe to anywhere you want to see. But he's preaching to his congregations. You come to my church, you listen to my preaching. I'm supposed to be your spiritual leader. So you have to bring your tithe to me.
Qualified.
He's already taking himself as a spiritual leader.
Yes.
That is the point.
That's what he's saying that he's not saying out.
That is the point I'm driving to, because if you watch our world today, it's going on all over the world. And I believe that the reason why the Bible was warned about that, the Spirit sees already what He has imputed into man, every man, how they are going to function. That's why He gives that warning. Make sure you don't call any man your father upon the earth.
Or your master.
Not even master yet. call no man your father upon the earth, for one is your father,
which is in heaven.
which is in heaven. And we have said that the only way a person in the midst of a people can understand the things of the spirit, that person must automatically come from heaven. That's what we have said.
From the spirit. So
From the spirit.
because when you say heaven now, it paints a picture in the minds of the people, and that's not what we are talking about now. But when we mention heaven now, we now need to now clarify.
No,
so let's just say the spirit.
I will clarify that. When I said, when once somebody is coming to be with a generation and talk about the things of the spirit to correct humanity on a living that they're all gone away from,
Yes.
that person must automatically come from heaven. Why did I say that? You see, there's a picture shown in the Bible, the so-called Jesus. The person was born with the people, but he keeps telling them, I came from heaven. I come down from heaven. The question is, you see somebody that's birthed with you from the same womb, and he's telling you, I come from heaven. What makes him to come from heaven? You see, in the Bible it said, no man has ascended up to heaven, but he that came down from heaven, even the Son of Man, which is in heaven. Then the question is, how did the Son of Man get to heaven? So it shows you that nobody as a body standing can, how will I call it, can evaporate,
Ascend.
ascend, or whatever you call it, and fly out,
Vanish.
vanish from this earth to one style heaven. But the spirit that make humanity would come down and automatically make its abode in that body, and that body become the product of heaven. So when you are talking about the storehouse, we keep saying in this our forum that the storehouse is what everybody in the entire world need to understand what it stands for, what the meaning is, and what it's supposed to stand for. Which is why we said what the purpose of the storehouse is supposed to save in a generation of man. We have said that the spirit of the Lord that generated humanity is a spirit that cannot function in a generation without the body of a person.
Yes.
But it cannot be a person that chooses himself for the spirit. It cannot also be a person that men ordain. It cannot. So it must be a person which is a vessel that the spirit of the Lord provide for himself. Different from the way he provides man, all men. So he provides that vessel without a sin, so that he can make his abode come down to dwell in that person, to store himself in that person, to form his capacity in that person, to bury all the information in that person that is going to prepare, build men from that person. That's what we have said in many of the forums. That. So that marked the storehouse. That the storehouse is the body of a person in the generation of man, or a generation of men, that they cannot gain access to that spirit without being clean. So the spirit provides a person, come down, make his abode in that person, to mark his presence in a generation with men. In that person. So that person becomes the storehouse that everybody needs to return to. If you need to come, return back to God, or return back to the Lord, it is that person that you need to access to be able to see, to hear, how to get a guide that will prepare you for eternal life.
And to see that this thing you are explaining has to be that way. You see that from the command that gives rise to the storehouse, it was because of all of us we have gone out of the ordinances of God. You understand? Yes. And he said, right from the days of our fathers, we have gone away from his ordinances and have not kept them. He said, return to me so that I can return to you. To see that it can only be God that will be in the storehouse. That is the spirit who will provide a body for himself to live inside in order to guide man, all of us. You see that there is no man on earth that is qualified to stand in that place rather than the spirit. Because as he stated, they say all of us, our forefathers, have gone out. So who could be this person that will show us the way to return? Can it be any of us?
He cannot. He cannot be.
The storehouse supposed to be the returning center
Yes.
for every
And
man.
it cannot be many.
Is the returning center. It's not supposed to.
No,
It's the
I know.
returning center.
I know why I said supposed to be, because the way it is now it's not yet
Yes.
a returning center for every man, but every man ought to return to that storehouse.
No, but do you wonder why it was referred to as the storehouse? You know, of all the words, of all the, you know, the symbols that, you know, the Spirit could have used, you know, he just mentioned the storehouse. You know, just as the name implies, you know, based on what Brother Kofi has just you know, try to, you know, elaborate on or explain, so that the storehouse represents a vessel in which the Spirit of the Lord, that's the Spirit of creation, you know, has provided to dwell in order to, you know, have his salvation come to man,
Yes.
or his redemption come to man.
Yes.
Understand? So it shows that storehouse, that it implies something. No, because as I said, you would have used any other form of description, but he chose the storehouse. You know, with men, a store is a place, or a storehouse is a place where things are kept.
Material
You know,
things.
material things are kept.
Yes.
You know, and it's not kept because it's useless. It's not kept a store. When you say that something is a store, you know, and a storehouse, things are not kept there because they are useless.
They are
You know,
useful.
things are kept there because they are meant to serve purpose. Things are kept because they are still useful. You see, so when it comes to the Spirit, don't forget it was the Spirit that brought men, that gave them the inspiration and the understanding of how they try to, you know, run what they call their lives, though it's just their living. So when it comes to the Spirit, when he's talking about the storehouse, in its own sense now, it's not talking about a building, you know, just as you said, it's not a brick building, it's not a block building. It's a vessel, a person. That's who the Lord describes as his building.
Because it says he doesn't live in a tabernacle
Made with the hands of
built
men.
by hands.
Even you know, following that saying, you can still describe it as the body of man. You know, that a body that has not been educated, that has not been, you know, been forged by that fire of that Spirit, you understand, and is still with the doctrine and knowledge of men, is the building of man. Even
Which is what the pastor was trying to explain.
even if it's not a brick building,
Yes.
but that still falls under the building of the hands of men.
Yes.
But now we are talking about the storehouse. You see, so now the Spirit now identifying the body as that house. It shows you that body now, who he has described, or that storehouse who he has described now, is that vessel whom he puts something into. That vessel whom he would keep something, he will store something in. So what's that thing he's storing? It's himself. It's because you have described that Spirit that brought man,
his knowledge,
his capacity. You know, when I talk about knowledge, it just seems like, okay, he's just giving the person information. No, his
spirit, that is where it dwells.
His capacity, you know, that's
His influence.
the entirety of his being.
Yes.
That's what is stored in that person.
Unlike that this thing you were saying, that even though it happens to be that tithes has to be money, because we don't know what tithes supposed to be. You understand? It is from the storehouse. When we get to the storehouse, which is where the information is, that's where we can know what the tithe is. That tithe is not money. On our own, we cannot stay and know what the tithe.
You know, that's why we said you can't on this issue now. We can't talk about the tithe without the storehouse.
Everyone
You see,
understands
so
what the storehouse
now,
is.
so now what's on the floor that we are trying to, you know, dissect is what the storehouse represents. You know, and I think so far we have painted a picture. You understand that person now in question, whom the Spirit stores his capacity in. Understand that person is what the store is what he has described as the storehouse. What he's not saying, which is why I said, or which was why I was asking, of all the names he would have picked, of all the descriptions he would have picked, he picks the storehouse. Don't forget, when that Spirit of creation now has stored his capacity in that person, you know, there's something that person represents.
Yes.
After that process has been done, he represents God.
Yes.
You see, because it's only God that all men are expected to return to. Because when you speak to somebody and it's talking about, some kind of life, I don't know where they got that idea from, or a kind of life after this one, it's always how they can go and be with God. Understand? How God is the person who is meant to run that living or that life that is, after this present one now. You see, so the person in question, understand, or that storehouse in question, after that procedure has been fulfilled, understand, the imputing of his capacity in that being, what that person represents is God.
Yes.
Which is why we all cry for God. Which is why we have come to understand that God is the only person who can render help to man.
Yes.
So he's that person whom we all are supposed to now take our tithes to, because he has said, he has gone away from my ordinance. Yes. Return to me, and I'll return to you. So who are we supposed to return to? We know that to be God. So you ask yourself, without understanding what the storehouse is, or without knowing what the storehouse is, wherever we go, and do whatever we call tithing, and whether we pay it or we bring it, or you ask yourself, the place you have taken, whatever it is you have taken in the name of tithe, is that the storehouse?
Yes.
That is a question
that is the first thing.
That is an individual question that those of us who are sincere within ourselves should answer. Where you're taking whatever you call tithe, whether it's money or what, is that the storehouse? Because the instruction is to bring that tithe now to the storehouse, and the storehouse is God. It has been described that in Isaiah, that God with us, Emmanuel, that a child will be born. In Isaiah verse 9, chapter 9, try to describe, the birth or the presence of God in the midst of the people. He said Emmanuel. He said a child will be born.
In Isaiah, according to the prophecy, that a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and thou shalt call his name Emmanuel. Now,
which being interpreted
in Matthew is where the fulfillment, but all these things are still on the paper. They are still written,
signifying and trying to emphasize on something
on it. But in the Matthew account, on Matthew 1, I think verse 21, he said all these things were done, which is where it was now showing that a virgin shall conceive and bear a child, and thou shalt call his name Emmanuel, being interpreted God with us.
Yeah. And all these were done to fulfill what had been said in the prophets of Isaiah and all those. You see, but now it seems like a story, but it emphasizes something. It symbolizes something. That's the birth of that storehouse now in the midst of the people.
Yes.
Because if you follow the accounts there, they are not stories. But if you follow the account there, you will now see that at the appearance of that person, whom in the scripture now or in the Bible now is now that Jesus Christ. He tried to let the people know, based on his preaching, that their ways are out of course with the God they all want to please. And in order for them to get back on track, they needed to follow everything he lays down for them as an instruction or as a principle. You see, still painting the picture of a person whom we all have to submit to for guidance, for instruction, in order to get our ways right. Because all man is looking for is how to please a God. Unfortunately, we don't know how, because we don't know the God. Because you can't please something you don't know. See, so you need to know God first before you now get to know how to please him, which was the introduction or the need or the purpose for the introduction of a storehouse, and the purpose for that call to come or to bring to the storehouse, to return to that storehouse. Because it's only when you come in contact with that storehouse that you now get to know and have an understanding and fashion your path based on the instructions and guidance he gives you, that will lead you to that God. Because that's the whole purpose.
That is what it is. Because if a generation of man has gone away from the purpose of life, from the ways of their creator,
Yes.
and a call is now put by the same creator, that spirit, to say, no, this is not what I brought you people for.
Yes.
The way you are living is not according to my way.
Yes.
That is because nobody knows his way when he says that. So if he now put a call, or he need to establish a way that the humanity can return back to him, humanity will return back to him, just like you said, to get to know his ways.
Yeah.
To get to know him, knows his ways, and know how he wants them, or he wants us
To
to
function.
function. And like we keep saying, that cannot be applied if it's not in the midst of a people to show the people the way.
Yes.
So when you hear a pastor saying that storehouse is your place, I said something. I said, this is where the humanity got everything wrong. Your place, your place. And when that statement is made, your own. You know, you have your own.
Yes,
this one has
for
its own.
yourself.
This one has its own. And that is not what's supposed to be.
Yes.
That is why the spirit that put that in the writing, it doesn't make mistake.
Yeah.
He said, all the nation has robbed him. So return to him. And the call is to everybody. He didn't say some should return to so place, and some should return to so
That's
place.
why it says storehouse, not storehouses.
And even one, there's a place he won, which I'm not going to that details now, when he was telling the children of Israel that when the time now comes, when I will establish a place,
Well,
all those things that you people used to do, you take it here, you go there, you eat your this. Everybody should not do same again. Everybody should now return to that one place. So when God, see, I can't blame anybody. This as we are here now, we are not here to condemn anybody. We are not here to also blame anybody.
Yeah.
Because every of the function that humanities are functioning are the things that the Spirit gives.
yes. That's the spirit of the Lord.
The Spirit of the Lord give it like that. Because the first phase of the life was the introduction of man. And we live the ways of man.
Yes.
So when he said that your ways are not my ways, neither are your thoughts my thoughts, it means somebody will be bettered in the generation of men, which their thought is according to man's thought. But this person now will come out with a thought that is different from everybody's thought.
Yeah.
Because it is the one that the Spirit has now approved to come and store himself in. So that he can do the building by building men from that person.
From what you just said now, you just reminded me of this tithes and offering, as we said. You see that first call was to bring tithes, though it was with offering. But today,
Hold that thought, because we are going there now. Why I'm bringing this is for somebody to connect this to the tithe that we are going to bring now.
Okay.
I said, humanity was produced in a way that we should continue to do the wrong, in waiting until the arrival of God in our midst.
yes,
So the arrival of God in our midst is the challenge now that we have, because we are already taking God to be a sky spirit.
Yeah.
Not knowing that God is a person that will be born in our midst. For that Spirit of the Lord to come and store himself in. So to be able to have a storehouse where everybody will return to, just as you have said, is that that Spirit must provide a person, a vessel, that is going to dwell in, to carry out his function in that person, or to carry out his function from that person, that humanity will see that and know that, oh, this is God.
No, this is just said now, just reminded me of, like, everybody have just created this image of who God is in their own imagination, and I keep wondering, like, should God be who he is, or what we want him to be?
Yes.
You see, we keep telling people that God, that God should be a person among us, functioning under the capacity of the Spirit of the Lord. to guide us to the way of life, but it will look like a person. Like his appearance will look like a person.
Yes.
Like us.
Like us. And this is something we have been saying in most of our previous
Episodes.
forums. You see? But people has craved this image of who their God is. That God is a spirit. And it's something you can't see.
That the spirit is something you can't see.
You can't see.
Which is not.
Which is not. And God should be who he is, not who we want him to be.
Yes.
If he decides to be as a man in a person of like in a body to live among us, should we have a problem with it?
Who are we to even question?
Who are we to even put that it can be?
Because that is where things
see-
supposed to even be easy for us.
Yes.
That the things we cannot fix,
And it
somebody
should-
will come out and fix
yes,
them.
it should be easy for, because we have someone we can actually have access to. You see, oh, he's God. Wow. So he is coming to fix everything for us. What is there for us to saying no, it can't be? Can't even say that.
Well, like we have said in this our movement, whether our world like it or not, that is what has been established, and that is what must be. If it was not so, we would not have this forum.
Your belief has nothing to do with
It has nothing to
You
do.
can't even change it.
It doesn't change anything. That is how it is.
That's how it has been designed to be.
That is why we have said that for us as humans to know who God is in a generation, to be able to know who God is, because we don't know who God is. We don't know how God will look like. We don't know the kind of capacity that the God will come with. So for us now to have God with us, how are we going to prove this? How are we going to know that God is in our midst? What are we going to use to prove? Because we have said that somebody will born in our midst, carrying out a different capacity that shows that this is God. But how are we going to know that? Because that is where tithe comes in. Do you see how it connects?
Because that's the only thing
That
you can
is
use
where
to
tithe
prove
comes
him.
in. So what do you need to use to prove him? Because he said, return to me and I will return to you. So how are we going to know that in a generation there is God with us?
You give him money. You give him money.
You see, because that is what we have preached. That what you need to return to God with is money. But that is wrong.
What is it going to do with the money?
That is wrong. Because for me, if God is around, I need to go and find out. I need to go and hear for myself. And if I go to hear, what will I use to prove? For him to use to prove me that this is him. It's not even me because I can't prove him. But the tithe was supposed to be brought.
prove him. You know, you see, that's the funny thing. You know, because he has said, prove me. You understand? When you want to prove something, you understand, it's based on an understanding or a knowledge you have.
Yes.
You understand? So you're trying to prove if this thing now matches your understanding.
Yes.
Or the knowledge you have about it. Like for instance, now they teach in chemistry that when blue litmus paper turns pink, that
red.
something has happened. So
It's
like
acid
it's
or
like
base.
base or no. I've forgotten the entire things.
The newspaper, put it in a base, it will turn blue.
Something like that. You understand? But the basic idea is that when blue litmus paper turns pink, that base or that solution now has a certain property in it, which is why that blue litmus paper is turning pink. So that's how you prove that thing is inside that solution, by the blue litmus paper turning pink. So you have proven that is the solution. So it's because you understand that in that base now, for it to turn pink, something needs to be inside.
Yeah.
So, and it's
There must be a component.
Yeah, a reagent must be inside of that solution. As to confirm that reagent is inside that solution, that blue litmus paper needs to turn pink. So you have proven, and that knowledge that you have proven is that you know that for this thing to turn pink, that this particular solution is inside of it. You see, so what you are proving is an already known stuff in your head.
Yes.
So when it comes to God, now we have established that nobody knows who God is.
Yes.
So how do you go and prove God?
Because tithe is supposed to be for proof first.
No, because you have asked. I said, should God be who he is
To us.
or what
We want him.
we want him to be? Because when we go with that sense, you understand, we have an idea, just as I said, we have an idea of what God
know as
should be.
God.
Understand? Or how God should operate. Understand? So when we hear and prove me, it's like, okay, when we meet a person or when we go to a place of spiritual nourishment, you know that there's a function we should see there that should prove that God is there. You see, and that proof and that proof we are seeking for is based on that knowledge, forgetting that what man knoweth is the thing of man, is the things of man, save the spirit of man that is in him. You know, the same way that the things of God knoweth no man, stated clearly. So it shows that man doesn't have any idea of
The things of
the
God.
things of God. So how do you prove God? You see, that's why I are saying that you can't prove God. He's the one that would reveal himself to you. That listen, he's me by whatever means he wants to do that.
Yes.
But that will be after you have brought.
You see, but first of all, you have to make yourself available.
You have
For
to
him,
bring.
Yeah, you have to bring yourself for him to do that. You know, because remember,
You have to bring your heart.
How can you locate him
before we even get to
to
that,
even bring yourself?
Do you know this spirit is very, I don't know how to describe it. You know, you didn't put bring yourself in the right thing.
say bring your tithes.
But on your exhibition is yourself that you're supposed to bring. But on the right, he didn't say bring yourself. He used the word tithe just to keep.
Before you use the word tithe, he said something. He said, return unto me,
And
and I will return unto you. I would like us to read there.
It's like
you know-
a clue, sir.
You know why
And yes, it's a clue, yes.
Like-
you know why I'm bringing this?
Yeah.
You see, there is a big problem in our world. I'm telling you. And these are the things that are spiritual. And it does not supposed to be something that a carnal man just get up and carry the book and try to explain to the people. Because once you do that, you are killing the people.
yes.
You know, we don't know how this thing functions.
Yeah, that's exactly what you are doing.
Putting yourself in the place of God. So when you do that, what you're trying to say is that I am the one that is going to do it.
Yeah.
But you don't have that capacity.
Yes.
You understand?
Yeah.
Because you see what we see with men of God. Let me put it. in
Supposed
that-
men of God.
Men of God in quote. You know, everyone claims to know it all, and that his own knowledge is the right knowledge.
Yeah.
If there are 100 knowledges, that means that there are 100 people having their own opinion. You know, he's entitled to his own opinion, and his own opinion is right. But you see that with men, each one has his different style of doing things. So if it is supposed to be one base that we are all operating on, how come everybody has his own style of doing things? Wouldn't everybody be working with one style? This just shows us that everything that everybody is doing, they are all doing rubbish, because everybody is doing what he feels. Everybody is explaining what he understands. Everybody is explaining how he sees it. So you're talking from your own self, you know. But this source that we are talking about, this storehouse, is the one that is speaking the voice of the spirit of creation.
Yes.
You understand?
Yeah.
And that voice of the spirit of creation is the one that addresses all men,
Yes.
irrespective of how you are, who you are, or what you are. Since he is the one that made us, be you black, white, yellow, purple, whatever it is, whatever your
Pink and blue.
language is, whatever your location is, you know, he is the one that has created everybody. So it is only that one source that can apply to everybody. This one that is breaking up in factions, it doesn't serve any purpose. The only purpose that the spirit of creation wants to serve is from one person, and it is only that one person that can perform the work of giving him life through his guide. So that is one thing we need to understand about this bringing of tithing to the storehouse.
Yes,
So that when we are thinking, when we are talking, people will understand that it cannot be a diverse, that every man, like he said, to your own place of spiritual nourishment. So if everybody has his own place of spiritual nourishment, this one might be going to A, this one might be going to B, this one might be going to C, and they will all be hearing different things based on who they are going to. There is no way that there can be unity in what they are saying, But the plan of the Spirit is that from one source, everybody is hearing the same thing, and everybody is doing the same thing, and everybody is applying what he is hearing in the same manner. It can only be done from one source and not from diverse sources.
Yeah. That is Sister Belle joining us from Dallas. She wasn't with us when we kicked off, so she joined us as the program went on. So that was Sister Belle, whom you just heard from, and sharing her own view or insight on the matter. But we are now trying to get into what the tithe is, because we have
Done justice
to our level or to our capacity. We have tried to describe and explain what the storehouse is. But before we get further, let's just still draw everybody's mind back to it, back to back to the conclusion that we made
concerning the
storehouse. That the storehouse is a vessel, a person whom the Spirit of the Lord, the Spirit of creation, has marked out for himself, has provided, has prepared, to impute his capacity, to impute himself, his spirit in that person, to be that help we all as men have been crying for. So we have described the storehouse to be the person of God in the midst of the people. And what makes the person God is the capacity which that Spirit of the Lord has imputed in him, making him the storehouse, making him the vessel that contains his capacity. And by containing the capacity of the Lord and the Spirit of creation, he becomes God, or he becomes God to function in our midst and to show us and lead us down a path that would bring about life, just as Brother Camilo stated. And so that's who the storehouse represents.
And they cannot be two.
And it can't be two.
In a generation.
Even in, no matter how long.
Based on what we know our generation.
Can we say the storehouse is a point of contact for every man?
Yeah, you can still say that.
Tithes, all.
No, you can still say that.
It's a point of contact.
It's a point of contact.
But we need to understand what the contact
is. Of contact that we are talking about
is that
is why we say it's a person.
Yeah.
So when he says seek ye the Lord while he may be found, we can put it anywhere. They are in the scripture. So seek ye the Lord while he may be found. We have said that the Spirit of the Lord is the Spirit that generated everything.
Yes.
And there's no how humanity can get that Spirit without providing a vessel that it will dwell in to guide humanity from. That is the point of contact for every man. The question is, can you know there? Even if you see that person, will you know?
How can you know?
That is why we are saying that is where tithe need to come in. So if tithe were to be for a proof, to be able to know who God is in a generation, would that be money?
I think we should read that in Malachi.
So I want us to read from verse 6, verse 5.
Verse 5.
A lot of people, they read it, they read verse 10. Bring you all the tithe into the storehouse, because of the gain that we always need from that place.
Malachi
Malachi chapter 3 from verses 5.
Okay.
Down. And I will come near to you to judgments, and I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers, and against the adulterers, and against the false swearers, and against those that oppress the hireling in his wages, the widow, and the fatherless, and that turn aside the stranger from his right. And fear not me, said the Lord of hosts. Verse 6, for I am the Lord, I change not. Therefore, ye sons of Jacob are not consumed.
Hold it first. There is a statement that you just put. He said, for I am the Lord, and I change not.
Yes.
You see, when the preacher, the supposed preacher, the pastor was talking, he made a statement. He said, this cause is not the cause of the law, the old cause. You know, for them, their own God has the old thing. They have a new thing. In the Bible that they have Old Testament, they have New Testament.
It is like
But we have said before that where you see Genesis is even where the work begins, where God comes to begin work. Don't forget that. We've said that here, that the Genesis account is the beginning of God in a generation where He comes to work on men.
yes.
So you can't say that is old. That is even the beginning of the work. You see, but we are not going to that details. What I'm saying here is that He said, I am the Lord, and I change not.
Yes.
That spirit, He does not change. But He can change the way He's doing things. That doesn't make Him change. So, if He's the Lord and He does not change, and we, who are the sons of Jacob, He said we should not be consumed. What will consume us? Is the way we are living. I don't know whether you understand my point. It is the way we are living that we can be consumed.
Yes.
We are not going to be consumed because we are not bringing money for Him. It is the way that He knows that the life that we are living is not according to His ordinances. So we can be consumed.
Yes.
So for Him knowing that we can be consumed, but He doesn't want us to consume, is the reason why He need to establish a contact point that we need to contact to be corrected.
Yes.
So that we will not be consumed. If you are reading this thing from verse 1, you see where He's talking about sending the messenger, which we are not going there.
Yes.
But that is where the whole thing begins. That is where the whole message begins. But nobody can talk about those things. So we are not here to preach the Bible. We are here to bring out that point that show our world that there is no how we can have God or can have a life of God without having God with us. There is no way we can be corrected in the living that we are living without having God with us. There is no way we can have that good life, that solution we are seeking for without having God with us. And God with us cannot be in the sky.
Yes.
God with us is a person with us that we must see as the God. That is why from what children was saying, that in Matthew 1, the process that bring the Jesus, which is not a story, that marked the beginning of God with the people. Don't forget, the people were behaving as if they know God. But something just came in and showed them that they have never been God. That is why in this our forum, we keep telling the world that there has never been God. There has never been God. This is the time that God has come in to do a work. All we just need to do is to give in to see what He has for us. That is what it is. So that is why this moment is to pass this good news to our world. That every man should stop what he's doing. Everybody should stop what he's doing, what the thing he knows when he has to do with God, and focus on the right person.
You know, when you said there have never been God, many people will not be like, who is the one doing all these things in the world?
Who made the world?
Who made the world? You know, so we have to let them understand that there's the Lord, which is the overall spirit that brought humanity into existence, that brought everything that we are seeing in this world into existence. And also there is God. That God that we are talking about is a person that has the spirit of the Lord among men.
Which is that picture in that Matthew chapter
That-
1
that-
that we are saying.
That is why
that's the goal we're
from the
talking
thing
about.
we keep explaining who the storehouse is. We keep explaining the storehouse to mean that it's the presence of God in the generation.
Yes.
If somebody does not understand that what the person needs to do is to get into our email and send us a text message, send us a mail, then ask whatever question that you need to ask. But you see, there has never been God. There has never been God. And we have said that in different forums that we have here. And we try to bring to our world how God needs to be in a generation of man. That we also said it there. Yeah. So
let's finish what we're let's finish
go forward.
From verse 7.
Yeah.
Even from the days of your fathers, ye are gone away from my ordinances, and have not kept them. Return unto me, and I will return unto you, said the Lord of hosts. But ye said, wherein shall we return? Will a man rob God? Yet ye have robbed me. But ye say, wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes.
Hold it there, yes. He said, even from the days of your fathers, ye have gone away from my ordinances,
Yes.
and have not kept them.
Yes.
You see, we have discussed here that the father that he's talking about here is not our heavenly father.
It is whatever.
Eh?
Combine.
What we have in the home, the way we call father. But he become our heavenly father because he's the spirit of man that is a father of all. We call it the spirit of the devil himself. What makes a devil is not from what we know. It is because the spirit that generated man like that. So he is the father, and from the inception of the spirit of man in the body of everybody has been the wrong path, based on the way the spirit programmed it from the beginning. That is why you cannot condemn anybody.
We are subjected to be of.
It is a subjection.
Yes.
That is how it is. So the call for return now is because of that life that we are living without knowing it. There's nobody that knows it. There's nobody you can talk to, even the so-called preacher. You can't talk to them now and they can't even believe that they are wrong. But remember, I said, if the light that is in thee be darkness, this is how great would that darkness be. So from the things you are doing, men are seeing it as light, but the Lord is seeing it as what? Darkness.
Yes.
And you cannot know it. And he said, as long as that darkness in you that appears light unto men is great, you will continue to make it appear great in the eyes of men, just to later show you that you were in darkness without knowing. You see, so that is why we need the one that is the true light to be able to shine to us, to let us know that that path we are going will get destroyed.
You know,
I'm the light of the world.
This is, you just said now, just reminded me of one scripture that it says, my glory I can never share with any man.
Yes.
But if what the so-called pastors are doing, they are the ones that are getting the glory. When God starts his work, everybody will know that this is God, and no man can share his glory with him. So he can't share.
It's not his glory.
No, it can't be God's glory.
According to what you just said.
So understand, it can't be God's glory, because he said it that his glory can't share with man. But what men are sharing now is their own glory. Yes. When God starts his work, it will be critical clear that is the work of God. Yes. And everybody will know that is God's doing. And no man dares to share the glory of God with him.
Okay. So continue.
So
let's run off.
From verse 8. Will a man rob God? Yet ye have robbed me. But ye say, wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and offerings. Ye are cursed with a curse, for ye have robbed me, even this whole nation. Verse 10. Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in my house. And prove me now herewith, said the Lord of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven, and pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it.
You see, this is the one down that.
This is where
He buries everything in this. Like everything.
the whole preaching of tithes is based on this, because now the picture painted in this tale now makes tithing as in what we know as tithe, paying of money, it makes the whole tithing scheme look like a Ponzi scheme. You come and invest your money, and you get tenfold, in return. That's what we have now turned it into a Ponzi scheme. You just come, you pay in your money, and you go back, because you have read there that when you pay in the money, that's what they keep preaching. That when you pay in the money,
you open the
floodgates of heaven and drown you with blessings.
From this thing you're just saying, there's what I wanted to mention in this concerning that we have robbed him in tithes and offering. So what we are concentrating today is tithes, but you also note that there's offering there. You understand?
No, that's going to be the conclusion of the whole matter, because nobody's talking about tithes. I mean, nobody's talking about offerings, and where we are reaching out from, I don't know if that's how it is in the rest of the world, but the offering is always the loose change you can just give away. But when you correct the impression of what tithe is, automatically you are going to correct the impression of what offering is as well. And so it's going to follow. Follow that, and we're going to arrive. Yeah, we are going to arrive at that. So we don't just jump. As I was saying, we have now painted our relationship with God as some kind of Ponzi scheme. We invest our money with Him, and in turn He gives us some sort of blessing. That's just what we have turned our relationship with God into, a business transaction. But as I said, the only thing I agree with him was when he said that tithe is not all about money. I agree with him, but just as Brother Camilo said, that there's something he's saying that he's not saying, or there's something he's saying that he doesn't have an idea of. Because when he has now said that money is not, tithe is not all about money, or tithe is not money, in his own, he said it's not all about money. You understand? But we are saying it's not money at all. But when he's saying tithe is not all about money, he's saying that because in his own congregation or in his own house, as he said, that the tithing house is still money that they take as tithe. Yes. So he's not trying to discredit money. But he's just trying to say that it's not all about money, but money is still involved. But we are saying that
that's the craft nature of
man. You see, but there's no connection between money and tithing. Yes. Because when you say that it's something we have to break to prove who God is, and we have tried to show that you can't prove God, because you can't go to God expecting to prove Him based on the knowledge you have. And so you are going to God and for Him to not necessarily prove Himself to you, but to show you Himself. To show you Himself. So He discredits whatever thing you think you know about Him when you get to meet Him. So that is what He does when you meet God, or that's what happens when you meet God. So now the tithe now, which we are now trying to emphasize on now, is what every man should have to take to God. Because we have said that everybody on the face of the earth has tithe, and many of us don't know that. So tithe as money can be what everybody has, because there are those of us who don't have the money. There are those of us who have in excess. There are those of us who have little, and there are those of us who don't have at all. So if tithe as money is something that God accepts, then definitely not everybody will have that tithe to take to God. But we all have been instructed to bring that tithe to God. All.
Everybody.
Not if tithe is money, not everybody can return to God.
Not everybody.
Because I will take us. He didn't give me money. How can I return to you?
No, because he said, bring ye all. Because when we see that first, we just jump and say tithe. Say, bring ye all. He said, all of you bring. You know, you can interpret it that way. Say, all of you bring a tithe. You see, all of you. So it means tithe has to be something we all have. I'll just throw in a little bit of my experience before we go further. It's very brief. You know, we have been taught that tithe is money. You know, and at some point, you know, in the Catholic system, you know, tithe is not spoken of as much as it is in the Pentecostal system, you know, or in some other kind of religious settings. But at a point, I got to hear about tithe from the Catholic preaching, and you know, it's still bothered around money. But at that point, I was a student, so what went through my mind was, you know, if tithes as money is something we have to bring to God, for the blessing of God to be upon us, how am I as a student supposed to now, you know, make money to take to God? You know, it has limited me.
Because you need the blessing of God.
It's because I need the blessing of God. But now they have tied the blessing of God to the money I need to bring to God. But as a student, I don't have money. I don't do it. I don't have a job. And we expected to have a job to earn money and bring to God. And so it limited me. And so it showed. Or now I can now understand and see clearly how tithe as money cannot be what is expected of us. Because I didn't have money at the time, but tithe was something I needed to bring to God. But now we are saying that tithe is the heart of man. And every person on the face of the earth has that heart. You know, and the heart is not referring to the organ that pumps the blood or circulates the blood. But it's referring to that inner being that constitutes the man. That constitutes a person. When you say that he that has ear, let him hear. And the ear is not talking about this one. He's still talking about that same heart.
The same heart that he was talking about in Jeremiah.
That is deceitful.
Yeah,
that is wicked.
Yes.
So that is that heart.
You know, I've asked a question. It's a kind of question. Let me put it like that. I asked to our viewers, whosoever that is listening to us. My analysis is a kind of question. I said, even from the days of your fathers, we have gone away from my ordinances, and I have not kept them. Return to me, and I will return to you. That is the call of the Lord to all of us, humanity. So, if the Lord, knowing that we have gone away from his ordinances, that is the way of doing things, the way he expects us to do things, then we have gone away from it. I don't know why that is the meaning of ordinance.
Yeah, it's a way. Yeah, it's ways.
The way we are doing things, which is the way he expects us to do things. He said we have gone away from it. Now we should return to him. It means the return to him is so that we can pick up that way of correction. But I said that we cannot be corrected if he's not there. That is why he said we should return to him, and he will return to us. So if I am to return to the Lord, and the only way I can return to the Lord is from the vessel that he has built in to store himself in, because that's the way we need to seek him to find him. What am I supposed to use to return to him? What does he demand from me? Can that be money?
No, it's the heart.
The answer is no. No. I know why I'm saying this. The answer is no. But you have said it is the heart. Correct, because even in the denomination, that is what they try to preach to us. They say, he's knocking. Open the door of your heart. He's knocking. Is it not what they used to say? Yes. He's knocking, standing at the door, knocking every time, because it is the heart that a man needs to access God first for the work that God will do in everybody. And everybody has that heart. And everybody has the work that God needs to do in the person, each of the person.
You know,
that is why the call is to everybody.
You know, we describe, I just described the heart as what constitutes the man, what drives the function of the man. So, which is why it's the heart that we need to return to God with. You know, because it's the heart that is the engineering, is the engine room for the activities of man. You know, because it says that the body is the house of God, or the heart of man, or the body of man is the house of God. it's that heart, not the organ, but it's that engine room. So it's that heart now that we need to return to God with, because that's what drives our activities.
So
And because
from the point we are establishing here, so that we can move forward, is that the tithe is the heart of man.
now I wanted to add something, because that detail is important. Because when you say it's the heart, you need to understand why it's the heart. It's the heart because it's the heart that drives the activity of man. That's why Jeremiah, just like you pointed out, he was pointed at that heart is desperate, it's wicked, and even the man, the person carrying the heart, does not know that that is the state of the heart. That is why the activity of man, he cannot see the spiritual detriment of those activities. That's because that heart is deceitful. You see, what is driving him, he doesn't have an idea of the state of that engine.
Because you feel that he's on the right track.
On the right track. You see, that's why he said that the way that seemeth right unto a man is the way of destruction. You see, the man sees it as right, but the end of it is destruction, and he can't see that because of the heart. So it's the heart, that's that engine room now that we are meant to return to God with. So he works on that engine, because when we read, because we are now we are pressed for time. Understand? Because when you read that, you can see that is when we return to him with that type, so that they can be meat, as you read, in his house. These are a lot of issues to be touched. A lot of issues to be touched. Because when you have now described the type now to be the heart, you need to now follow through with the other things that we are there to clear up. Because at the end, it ended with the blessing of God. And we as men, we have our own understanding of what blessing is, which we need to clarify as well.
Yep.
These issues are quite extensive, and we can't exhaust them in one sitting. Because now from our discussions, we have now seen that it's necessary to explain what the meat is, what offering is, just as society pointed out, and what the blessing of God is. But on this sitting, we have now tried to, extensively talk about the storehouse, which I feel we have successfully done. We have extensively talked about the tithe as well. So I don't think we will do justice if we rush these other ones, which is the meat, the offering, the blessing, because we are now pressed for time. So I would say that we would have to, have or conclude rather this our discussion in our next episode, or in our next sitting. So our next sitting will be like a continuation of this issue of tithe and offering, but as it relates to the meat, the offering, and the blessing. That's what we are going to be talking about. So on this junction, now, now where we are now, we can pronounce things the way we want. Either it's junction or junction, or either way. At this point, we will draw the curtains on our sitting today, or on today's episode, and we will continue in our next sitting. So, for those of you who might have inquiries to make, based on what we have just discussed, or based on our previous discussions, as usual, you can send us an email via the addresses on your screen, and we'll be sure to get back to you. And for those of you who might like to join us in our sessions to have your questions addressed directly, you can indicate that on your mail, and we'll establish a video link to have you join us via a video streaming platform, be it Zoom, Google Meet, or Skype. And this procedure doesn't require any monetary charge. All you need is your access to the internet, and you can get to be with us. So at this point, we'll say goodbye and see you at another time.